Good afternoon. Let's start today off with EuroCAD. I'm gonna go through this video real quick because I have other errands to run, but I will get back to your messages. And if you have any questions regarding this, just let me know. All right, so starting with EuroCAD, I have my cell zone, which is an engulfing cell meets an engulfing cell. We also have another cell over here. Then we have our buy zone, which is an engulfing cell that failed. Price came back, closed within, and created this engulfing buy. Okay, so current price is over here. What can EuroCAD do? EuroCAD, if it decides it wants to test our buy or our sell zone, H4 cannot break below, excuse me, or break above, respectively. Okay, if it does that, then potentially we can catch a buy and a sell from our zones. But if it breaks either of our zones, meaning it drops down and closes below our buy zone, or it drops or it spikes up, to close above our sell zone, then potentially it might want to test a higher or a lower area, right? When it does that, if H4 breaks, either we can look for the next buy and sell zones, or we wait for the price to retrace back into our key levels to look for opposite setups. Meaning, if it was a buy zone that failed, then, or a buy zone that got broken, then we can wait for the price to retrace back into our key levels to look for a potential sell setup instead. Okay, mind you that since I'm mapping on H4, where do you find your entries? Well, just monitor M5 and M15 for your entries. Okay, so what are you looking exactly when the entries are happening? Again, same thing that I keep teaching you. Engulfing meets engulfing, a fail meets engulfing, or a fail meets two engulfings. Alright? Those are the setups that I want you to wait, whether it's an M5 or 15, to create themselves before you press anything. Next pair, EJ. Now there was a few people who wanted me to map EJ yesterday, but the other three pairs won. Okay, so now EJ has respected my sell, right? Even though it shot up high and it broke our zones over here that I gave, but it still closed within and decided to drop back down. And you can see that although this happened, it still had to retrace back into the key level, close within on H4, and create this engulfing sell. Okay, so the sellers over here are still very much quite strong because they are not letting the price break above at all. Then our buy zone, same thing. We have an engulfing sell that failed, price came back, created this first engulfing buy. So if it comes into our buy zone, we will anticipate it to create an engulfing buy, right? An engulfing buy. But if it comes in here and it wants to respect, then we are looking for a sell or either a sharp wicks into these two if the volume is there. But a sell from here and a buy from here only when the zones are respected. Okay? Let me just zoom in a little. Okay. Current price here. If it comes into our sell zone once again, you can look for the sell setups, right? Especially if you have a higher risk appetite, meaning you're not going to wait for the H4 to close first. When the price reaches, you decide to find a setup to enter. But if you're a low risk trader, you're conservative with your capital, you do not want to expose your capital to unnecessary trades, then wait for the H4 to close first. Again, this is completely how you manage your account. Okay, on my side, I like to wait for the H4 to close first, but if there is a complete setup in a smaller time frame that is aligned with multiple higher time frames, meaning I can see setups in M5, M15, M30, H1, I might just think of entering in that setup. Okay, there are some times, but in general, I'm quite a low risk trader. I'm very conservative with my capital. So that's it. I usually wait for the H4 to close first. Okay? And all right, if the price decides to drop down into our buy zone, then we can potentially look for a buy if the H4 respects our zone. If it breaks either of the zones, meaning breaks above our sell zone or below our buy zone, then there's a chance it could go even higher or lower respectively. Okay, if it does that, then we can look for the next zones or we wait for the key level, wait for the price to retrace back into the key level to look for the opposite setups. Okay, remember to please place your SLs. Okay, usually from entry. Let me just write it down. If you do not know where you're going to close your trades manually, if you do not know where you're going to exit or where you're going to cut loss, better to set SL, especially if you are a beginner. Okay, but if you are someone who can monitor the charts, have time to do so, then you can cut your losses or TP at something that you already imagined where you're going to do it. But if not, set SL. And I usually recommend 40 pips because 40 pips is not too tight nor too loose. Okay, not too tight nor too loose, because sometimes it can touch your SL before going into the right direction that you want it to. Okay, so something is a food for thought. Last but not least, GBP USD. I have my sell zone up top, which is an engulfing sell. Then over here in the middle, I have my engulfing sell that failed. So if the price wanted to continue on this uptrend, then potentially it has to respect our engulfing sell fail over here. But if the price breaks, then we have another buy zone, which is an engulfing buy, meets an engulfing buy down here. Okay, so something that we can all monitor together where the price might go, because the current price is over here. So what can we do? Let's say you have a high risk appetite. Of course, it's a sell fail in H4. So what we are doing is trying to look for buy setups, right? We're trying to ride the wave with the buyers. So when we go down into the smaller time frame, I'm going to use M15. What I do is try to find any setups that I can find in the key level or around it. Okay, so what I can see is, let's see, M15 has this, an engulfing buy. Okay, an engulfing buy. Now price came back in, created this engulfing buy, and it also created this engulfing buy. So we have 3 engulfing buys to kind of confirm that the buyers are here. But now that the current price is testing again, if the buyers were strong enough, the second engulfing buy should push it a bit higher, right? But it came down, created another engulfing buy that dropped again. So we have to take price action into, excuse me, my sniffles are getting really bad. We have to take price action into account. So when we see this, we know that the buyers are still present because it has not broken our engulfing buy yet, but the buyers are slowly losing momentum. So if the price decides to still respect this zone, then it might be waiting for that right timing or the bigger money traders to come in, right? So that is why it's just hovering around. So we can monitor for another engulfing buy. And if you want to enter after that engulfing buy, at least you entered from a setup. Okay, so it's not wrong. Either it can go or it can retrace back and hit SL. That's every single trade that you take. All right, but now that we have this H4, we're looking for a buy. And 15, we're also looking for a buy. How do we help confirm? We look for other things also. Let's check for M5. M5, we also have, let me point it out for you, an engulfing buy over here, and engulfing buy over here. It's even a sell fail over here. And when I scroll back to the recent prices, you will see that it created an engulfing buy and potentially another engulfing buy. Okay, if M5 decides to close above this wick. Okay, so if you have those confirmations from 3 different time frames, of course you're going to have a higher chance at winning that trade. Okay, a higher chance at winning that trade. Okay, so let's just screenshot GBP USD, see what it can do. Again, we're looking for a buy from here, right? I already gave you the potential setups, but wait for the next engulfing buy to happen first in both M5 and M15. Even better if you can do that, because if it doesn't and it decides to, excuse me, break, then the sellers are overpowering the buyers in that particular zone. Okay, meaning the sellers are trying to push the price to break our H4 to potentially test this lower zone. Okay, so everything is a potential. But if you can find different time frames to help confirm, your setups, or what you are looking for, what you are anticipating from the market's reactions, then it gives you a higher chance at winning in the market. All right? Long term, despite the losses and the numbers of wins, if you continue to do that, follow the strategy, you will end up winning long term. All right, so we're looking for a buy, we're expecting, so H4 cannot break below, meaning it has to still respect our buy zone for us to look for a buy, right? But if it breaks below, we have a buy zone down here that it might want to test. And after breaking, either we can wait here for our buy, or if the price wants to retrace back into our key level for a sell down, that is completely doable also. We can also use that as an opportunity. Next, if it decides to come in, if it decides to buy up into our sell zone and respects our sell zone, then potentially we can look for a sell back down. But if it breaks above, then potentially it might want to test a higher area. All right. TPs, again, TP is something you are comfortable with, the market structure, where you normally close your trades, or the next zones, the next key levels, right? But make sure it's something that you are comfortable with to hold. If you can hold for longer pips, then slowly increase your tolerance to the market. Okay, so that's it for the 3 pairs. I think I will upload the updates from yesterday to engulfings instead, so it's